Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh, and Karnataka. So I made some inquiries among friends who were interested in this, and they said, we'll help you fund it. So I started raising funds for it.
In the next 4 years was spent between 2007 to 2011, spent building up India, what turned out to be India's first craft distillery with pot stills. And this was in southern Andhra Pradesh in a remote area where we set up a greenfield distillery. You can see an image of our distillery there with the world's biggest cocktail glass, which is 40,000 liters, extremely narrow stem in the corner. The structure in the middle is our agro plant where we process agave plants. And on
and we were collecting agave, we still collect agave from roughly 100 to 150 kilometer radius surrounding it, from the wastelands. So we started making
agave spirits and soon got a little more ambitious, decided to use the same facilities here to make what other kind of spirit. Of course, it turned out to be cane spirit, which is the national drink of Brazil, cachaça. So we were making our version of the Mexican national spirit, our version of the Brazilian national spirit, and somewhere along the way, an idea that had started in my mind in early 2002 when I came across a uniquely Indian drink called mahua out on the outskirts of Daman. I said, let's take this country liquor, which is called mahua, and turn it into an international quality drink, because it is obvious that all international spirits, whatever we name them, started as country liquors in their countries of origin. So it took another 5 years for us to get to making mahua, and it was a big breakthrough for us when we finally got official permissions to make mahua in our craft distillery, and then eventually to sell it in Goa. So we launched that in 2018, and shortly after that, COVID hit, and our whole strategy changed about taking mahua to the world. We decided to set up a company in the US which would take mahua to the world outside of Indian borders, while we continued to service the limited markets in India that we are available in, namely Maharashtra, Karnataka, and Goa. So we are now at the end of a 22-year journey, something that started as a worm in my head in the year 2000, went through phases of research and development, the building of a craft distillery, and then launching products. And we think we have built a pretty solid brand. Our brand has stayed, consistent through these years because we've focused on quality, we're focused on delivering goods at a reasonable price to the middle class, and doing it at an international quality. So this is the summary of the Desmond G story. To fill in some more details, I'm going to request Conrad. Oh, let me tell you about Conrad. Conrad joined us in Goa as a kind of intern in 2010, 2011, and I found him so good at what he was doing that I offered him a job and said, hey, why don't you work with us for a while before diving into some five-star kitchen and figure out whether there's something of interest in alcohol that you can contribute to. And this guy, and I told him that you have an opportunity to have a front row seat on the building of a brand. He jumped into whatever tasks we gave him and has now become essentially the guy running the company with me. So he's all of 30. Yeah, and currently one of the opportunities he got, he was not there for the early part of the story, the agave cane spirit development. Perhaps cane spirit you were around for, maybe. But mahua is something I offered him. I said, look, here's another idea that's going from concept. It will have to arrive in the market and eventually go to the world. You will be part of every aspect of this, including R&D and going to tribal areas and sourcing the mahua and everything that's involved. So he actually knows more about the mahua story than I do, because he actually sells the stuff in addition to making it. And he's proved himself to be one of the most competent people in the alcohol world that I've come across. Over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Desmond. Very flattering. I'm just going to run you through the various brands we have and show you some images, of the raw materials. So we make spirits, we make liqueurs, and we also make a cocktail blend. Our spirits are produced in the micro distillery that we showed you before, and we do all our blending and bottling in Goa. Goa has been the first home to all our brands. This is a beautiful place to test the market because you have various people, settling here, and it's a very good opportunity to launch a brand. So we make 100% agave. You can think of this as a single malt of agave. It's made entirely from agave as a raw material, and it is distilled at our micro distillery. We make Asia's only agave spirits. There is nobody else in Asia making a spirit from the agave, even though it is naturalized on India's Deccan Plateau. And our operation is field to bottle. So we source the agave from the fields, and then we also sell the spirit. We also make a 51% agave. If you drink tequila, most of the tequilas available in the Indian market are actually what's called mixtos. That is, they use 51% agave, raw sugars, and 49% would be raw sugars from either cane or corn. That's blended together and then fermented and multiply distilled. We rest our 51% agave to give you a 51% agave gold, which is oak finished. So here are some images. Right up you see the agave plants. This is an image from our micro distillery in Andhra. We plant around 20 square kilometers with agave plants. 20 acres, sorry, my bad, 20 acres. And there you see the mature piñas. It's called piña because it resembles a large pineapple, as you can see in that image. So the plant takes between 8 to 12 years to mature. And the agave is native to Mesoamerica, that is Central America, and it came here during the event known as the Columbian Exchange, where the tomatoes, chilies, potatoes also came to Europe and Asia during that event. So the mature piñas are then dressed. You can see the dressed piñas being washed by Ashok over there. And then they are cut up, cooked in a steam autoclave, crushed to extract the juice. The juice is fermented and multiply distilled. Our orange liqueurs are made with a triple distilled grain spirit, and they're flavored with the essential oils of the renowned Nagpur orange and sweetened with a high-grade sugar. We also make a blue curacao, which has bitter orange oils and is colored blue with a food-grade color. Our blue margarita blend is basically a blend of a 51% agave with the blue curacao liqueur. And it's easy to make margaritas at home. And then there's mahua. So mahua is probably the only spirit in the world that is distilled from a sweet flower. It is indigenous to India. Mahua has been distilled by tribals for centuries, and then it got suppressed during the colonial era with acts like the Bombay Abkari Act of 1878 and the Mahura Act of 1892, and it has remained suppressed post that. Even through 70 years of independence, Mahua has only been suppressed further. Now, however, times are changing for Mahua, with Madhya Pradesh changing its policy surrounding Mahua, Chhattisgarh changing its policy, Maharashtra changing its policy, predominantly surrounding the flower, liberating the flower from this stringent regulations, but hopefully the spirit also will become to recognized as a heritage spirit in the various states, and then Mahua can be recognized as a heritage spirit of India. So these are images from our Mahua journeys. You see the Mahua trees over there, and you see that all the trees in that image are Mahua trees. So entire forests may be cleared, but the Mahua trees will remain standing, because the tribals call the Mahua tree Kalpavriksha, which means tree of life, and it is important to their material and symbolic reality. From the Mahua tree, they get a source of livelihood, and Mahua is also important to them culturally. It is a celestial witness for wedding ceremonies in some tribes, and it is distilled for births, it's drunk during weddings, and it's also distilled at times of funerals. And it gets tassel-like buds in spring, so the Mahua tree flowers for a period of 1 month, from March through May, and the flowers ripen and drop to the earth. So we are very cautious about hygiene, so we like to catch Mahua flowers on nets and dry them in solar dryers to prevent dirt from getting onto them. There you see a tribal house and mahua drying in the yard in front of it, and you see the mahua tree and a net at the base of the tree as well. So mahua is omnipresent in the central Indian forest belt. And this is how many tribals distill mahua. We have a very unique way of distilling Feni over here. This is the tribal setup. It's a 3-tier system. So the fermented liquid will be in the bottom tier. The middle pot has a hollowed out base, and it'll have a collection plate dangling in the center. And the top pot has cold water. So that's your condenser. So the vapors rise when it's heated from beneath, and they come in contact with the top pot, which is constantly replenished with cold water, and they condense and drop into the collection plate, which is dangling in the center thing, and it's drained out. You can see there are pipes draining out into bottles. So that's how it's distilled. Tribal mahua is predominantly single distilled and is drunk diluted to 10 to 15% alcohol as is. There's no further mixing. Now, why we think that mahua is a potential candidate for the national heritage, or at least a national heritage spirit of India, because of its footprint, which is visible in the India map. So mahua is distilled in 13 states, right from eastern Rajasthan to western West Bengal, southern Bihar to northern Telangana. And 50 million tribal people are very closely associated with mahua. So there are, on an average, I think 500 million kilograms of mahua collected per annum, and around 95% of that gets distilled into this spirit. So mahua is a huge potential economy. Right now it's completely unregulated, and we hope that it can get into regulation and become a national heritage spirit of India and go to the world, of course. Yeah, anyone has any questions?
I have a question. This came up earlier, and it's been coming up through the festival. So it's a question of appropriation, right? And obviously this is an important question to ask. Because we've had all these panels with capitalists, venture capitalists and startup people who are coming here and talking about, I've been here a long time, 4 years, and, talking about ways how we have to sell Goa to the world, right? With perhaps Goans being, bystanders to this entire process. I'm wondering, how do you cope with the question of appropriation when it comes to mahua, which is something, as you said, that is integral to tribal worldview, actually, for many peoples. How do you that actually?
You want to answer that?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Go first.
Yeah, we recognize that this is a tribal spirit. We are not trying to appropriate mahua. We pay homage to the tribal spirit, to the art of distillation that the tribals follow. We do not want to take the country liquor away from the tribals. Mahua has been suppressed. If you read this article by Monica Jha, called the Mahua story, you'll see that post independence also, there's been constant suppression of mahua. It has been deemed illegal. People are not even allowed to collect the flowers in places like Bihar. So we just want to bring the spirit out of its shadows, which have been imposed on it, and into the limelight. And we are distilling mahua while paying homage to the tribals at a standard that's a little different, and we own only this part of the story. And we want to take it to the world after launching it over here, because we believe that this spirit is a very unique spirit of India, a spirit that has provenance in India. And whatever we do, this entire company is an India story. We use entirely Indian raw materials, entirely Indian resources, and we distill proudly Indian spirits. So it only makes sense for us to associate with mahua and help take mahua from its shadows into the limelight. And if you don't talk about these things, then they continue remaining suppressed. So associated with appropriation, you'll not end up doing anything in this realm. So that's my answer, then Desmond can add to that.
Yeah. More importantly, at a national level, what we've been doing beyond what our own needs are to figure out how to get these 13 states to change their policies, their mahua policies, to free mahua as a foodstuff and as a source of alcohol from the very draconian excise and other kinds of laws that have been suppressing it for years. As a result, we have seen, because we have written down concrete policy proposals and sent them and engaged with bureaucrats in various states, 8 states so far out of 13, we have seen in the past 3 years since we launched our mahua and since mahua became a big story of which was written about many, many times since our launch, that states are in fact making some changes. Maharashtra, MP, Chhattisgarh, Jharkhand, all have been changing their policies slowly, making it mahua more tribal friendly, allowing tribal people, in fact, this is one of our suggestions, to develop mahua as an international quality spirit, run their own distilleries officially, and export mahua. So we've been promoting all this, promoting the tribal story, and saying that we have added a tiny layer on top. Our layer is to take it to a global standard, and we insist when we talk to these governments that they should leave tribals alone to carry on doing what they're doing with the bulk of their mahua, which is important to their culture, but to allow a small segment to be developed into a source of livelihood, both in the area of food and alcohol. So we are going far beyond our just making mahua and taking it to the world.
Yeah, it's a request also. I've enjoyed mahua many times. I'm an ex-forest officer, Ajay Saxena. Because of collection of mahua fruits, seeds, at the fruit flower level, the regeneration of mahua is not happening. So most of the collection at the moment, for last 10, 15 years we were studying, the regeneration of trees are not there. So I would request that you, if you are interested in mahua, you please also see what state governments are doing in regenerating the mahua trees in that area.
Fundamental sustainability.
Yeah, absolutely. We understand that it takes the mahua tree a long time to start bearing flowers, and it's important to populate the forests with mahua. There are certain myths that exist within tribal culture. People have told us that if you plant a mahua tree, it starts flowering only after you're dead. So then there are deterrents, natural deterrents to propagation, and people keep saying this thing has come up. Why would you plant a mahua tree? It's just there. It grows by itself. But we understand that mahua trees, the populations have dropped in the past few decades, and it is time to regenerate forests, mahua forests. Desmond proposes to various states, setting up a collaborative national mahua institute, which would study various varietals of mahua and then plant more mahua trees. So that is definitely something we encourage all the states to do, to look into the varietals of mahua and increase the number of mahua trees that are present.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Conrad and Desmond, for that super interesting presentation. I thoroughly admire what you've done. Desmond, I saw some of your first presentations when you had just discovered agave, and I remember you talking about it. It's amazing to see what you've achieved. I was recently in the Himalayas, and someone told me, next time you come, please bring me the agave spirit from Goa, because you've managed to do that, made in Goa. Congratulations, gentlemen. Congratulations. Thank you so much for being here. Please keep your seats for the next, thank you. Please keep your seats for the next session, where we're going to hear another, I would say, one of the more interesting